Jeremy, give me a thumbs up when you want to roll here. I'll give everybody a moment to pile in.
Sounds good. We'll give it like 60 more seconds here.
Cool.
Alrighty. I think we're ready to rock and roll whenever you are, Taylor.
Cool. Awesome. Hello, everyone. A couple quick housekeeping items. If you're in the chat, make sure you have it set to everyone, not just hosts and panelists, so that we can all enjoy the chat there on the right. And then for the Q&A today, we want you to use the Q&A section to submit your questions. Jeremy's going to be moderating that area there. So if you see down, usually on the bottom of your Zoom, you'll see a little chat bubble looking icon that you can click and drop your questions in there. And we'll be taking and filtering through them in that spot. So as we get started today, one, I want to just say that I hope you had a great experience in these 2 weeks, that you learned something, that you helped prepare for what is, again, a very sort of tumultuous, uncertain time that we're all living in. And I hope that out of this, that our goal of helping you reach a state of peace so that you can profit is at least moved progressively forward. And so before we get started today, and the point is Q&A, we're going to dive into a bunch of that. I want to allow Jeremy to set you up with how you can continue with us into Q4. And as I think a lot about what's coming and what we hope for out of this community, as we think about sort of the cost of continuing versus the value that we intend to deliver, our hope is always that out of the cost that you're contributing into this community, that what we're able to deliver and receive back is just so far in excess of it. Like, this is a space that we're incredibly proud to function and serve against our mission of helping entrepreneurs achieve their dreams. And I can't think of a period in time where having a community and context for what is happening around you as an individual store owner, as an individual agency provider, is more critical than now. A quick story, there was over the last 3 months, we really have seen iOS 15 take an immense toll on people's sort of just general understanding of how to deliver growth for their business. And in that space, what we've seen is that the primary response has been for people to pull back in the midst of attempting to sort out their information. We were sitting about 45 days ago with a large e-commerce company. I'm talking, they do about 50 million in revenue a year. And if you looked at their sort of revenue curve, starting literally in May 1, it just plummeted off as they massively pulled back spend when their ad account appeared to collapse. And within a week, we were able to provide them with the contextual information that surrounded their account to help them sort out decision-making and performance, to realize that they were still generating the performance that they needed to be successful. And now we've ramped right back up heading into Q4 and holiday. And when you look at sort of the aggregate total impact of just adjusting course, just being able to give them a new set of tools to decide, it's going to amount to tens of millions of dollars for them ultimately over the next year or so, and really heading into Q4. And this is a repeated story that I've seen over and over again, where I think about the primary value proposition that an agency is intended to provide to its partners is context. We are here to operationalize our institutional knowledge on your behalf. This is not just about choosing an individual contributor to add to your team. It's not about that one piece of content that is going to help. All those things matters. But the reality is the world is full of content and individual contributors that can offer into. What we have that we're going to bring to bear is the force of CTC's institutional knowledge on your behalf. And so the question I would sort of consider as you think about this is like, what is the value of being able to tap into a network to help you sort out that decision that confuses you, that problem that feels unsolvable, that data that is ambiguous? What is that moment or opportunity worth over the next 90 days? And that's what we hope to provide to you. So I'm going to hand it to Jeremy to give you a little bit of a setup here to start of how you can continue with us. And while we're doing that, start filling up the Q&A, and we're going to dive into it. I'll go as long as I can to answer all of your questions to the best of my ability as we go forward, and we will rock and roll. So, Jeremy, take it from there.
Thank you very much, Taylor. Hey, everybody. My name is Jeremy. I'm with Team Admission. I'm usually behind the scenes, so it's really exciting for me to jump on. I think it's like stuck on your screen there, Taylor. How do I change that?
I'm good. I see you.
Oh, you see me? Okay, cool.
You're rocking and rolling for me.
Yeah, so I really appreciate everybody's time. The cool thing is that we were able to welcome over 2,300 people into admission during this open period, which is absolutely overwhelming in the best way possible. We were able to serve so many people in the Slack community, provide resources to people that truly needed them to continue to push the brand forward during a time like this, like Taylor said. So really excited to give some information on how to continue, because naturally open period ends today. A lot of messages have come through about how do you continue membership, how do you continue to get help from our team, the resources that continually get updated in the members portal. So I'm here to talk about that. Now, what I'm going to do first, because a lot of people didn't get to experience everything that admission has to offer, and it wasn't necessarily designed that way. This is only a 10-day period of time. So there's so many different things inside of admission. So I want to go over what you're getting real quick before we go ahead and jump into the options that you have. So if I can share my screen real quick, I should be able to do that now. All right, you can see this, right?
Yep, I got you.
All right, so a couple things. Number one, you firstly get access to the training portal. This is incredibly important because we've all been there where we go on YouTube and we're trying to figure out answers to questions or best practices. And you have that, that chance of finding a video that's outdated or something that just straight up has the wrong information. Or we're on D2C Twitter, going through and asking questions of people and waiting. And, that's all great and everything. But the problem is that, like I said, sometimes you get outdated information. You don't have direct access to anything. So that's what we really try to solve with the training portal here. So not only do you get all of our best practices, you get the templates that we've created, the swipe files, the same things that we use for our clients that you can literally just download and use for yourself. But you also have the peace of mind that everything in here is completely up to date, and our team constantly updates this stuff. So whenever we have changes to best practices at the agency, or we see something on platform that's changed, which has been a recurring theme lately, we come in here and we update this. So you can come into the portal and know that this is kind of like your guiding North Star. You don't have that extra added stress of like, what's changed? What do I do next? What does this update that Facebook's rolled out mean for me? You don't have that anymore. So that peace of mind is absolutely massive. Now, on the other side, and actually one other thing I want to talk about the portal real quick. One thing I really appreciate about what we have here is that it doesn't just cover on platform stuff. You've heard Taylor talk about this a million times. Like, as things on platform get, have gotten murky over the last year, finding opportunities within things like, your terms with your supplier, or, on the forecasting finance stuff that we have here in this section, it's more important than ever to consider optimizations that can take place in those areas. And, one thing I want to point out is it's not just, what do you do on Facebook, or how do you make tweaks inside of Ads Manager, but this is really a holistic approach to e-commerce growth. And that's something that I think is really special here. Now, on the other side, you get the access to the Slack community. So this is massive, especially going into Q4 and this holiday shopping period of time that we have, because let's face it, we all have plans. I love the Mike Tyson quote. We all have a plan until we get punched in the face, right? Like, ultimately, that's how I see this upcoming period of time, is like, you can have the best plan possible, but at the end of the day, it doesn't always work out the way that you want it to work out. There's tweaks and adjustments and things that you need to kind of do on the fly. And I think that's where the Slack community really shines, is in that arena, right? Like you come in and you're like, oh no, like I need to tweak this, or this campaign that I was running wasn't working, or maybe you have to tweak some sort of promo, and you need that support or that help with kind of tweaking things as you go. And the great thing is that our entire team at Common Thread, all of the media buyers, the same exact ones that run our client accounts at the agency, they are the ones providing you that support and that help during that period of time. So imagine you run into those snags, and instead of having to solve it all on your own and kind of being on this silo, you have our entire team there to answer your questions, provide lightning quick assistance, uncover things that maybe you missed. It's kind of like missing the trees through the forest, or forest through the trees. It's like that, you know. Sometimes you get things that are uncovered that you weren't even aware of, or you weren't quite at that step yet. And that's the kind of impact that the media buyers at CTC, as well as the entire team in Slack, can provide to you during a time when you need that the most, which would be this upcoming Q4, and especially during Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Those are extremely small periods of time where, you know, those kind of lightning quick decisions need to happen in that short period of time, rather than, you know, taking your time with it. So that's really where the value of the Slack community comes into play. So, you know, with all of that being said, I want to, you know, obviously you've been in here, you've downloaded things, you've watched videos, you've asked questions in the Slack community, you get the value, and you see how this could be really key to having a successful Q4 and having that support. Now, the next thing I want to cover is, what does it look like as far as continuing membership? Because the cool thing is that we've set up some really cool deals for you to continue your membership with admission. This bar is in the way. So if I can swap pages here. So here's what it looks like. So admission is usually $347 a month. So it's a month-to-month deal. You can cancel at any time, and you get everything that I just mentioned. Now, a couple cool deals that we put together in place just for this open period, right? Number one is we put together a quarterly plan. This is $897, billed every 3 months. So you save $50 a month with that plan. And the cool thing with that is that you also get one free one-on-one consulting call with anybody from our team of media buyers, right? So we have a hiring center inside the training portal. So you can have a one-on-one free consulting call over Zoom with any of our media buyers inside of the members portal. So really great way to save money, but also get that free call. And you can use that during the upcoming holiday shopping season, where it's really important to have your stuff together during that period. And the other option that we have is our annual plan. So this is the best value as far as saving money. So it's $2,999 for the entire year. So you get a year access. You save $100 a month with that option. And then the other cool thing is, with that, you get 4 of those one-on-one consulting calls absolutely free. So those usually go $150 a piece inside of the training portal. So you get $150 worth of calls for free in the quarterly, and $600 worth of free calls inside of the annual membership. Now, I know we have some really cool extra bonuses for the people specifically on this live call right now. I'm going to pass it to Taylor here in a second. But one thing I want to mention too is that for the people who are like, Jeremy, I totally see the value. I get how this could be that safety net going into Q4. I totally get that. But the thing is, I wasn't able to take advantage of all the resources. I'm not 100% sure. I see it, I get it, but I wasn't in there for long enough. I didn't have enough time to check everything out. Well, this is how we protect you for, you know, those instances. We have a completely 30-day full money back guarantee. So if you choose any of these plans and 30 days from now, you're like, okay, I had time to go through everything. You know, I've had conversations in Slack. It's just not right for me. I don't wish to continue. Then we'll completely refund your money within that 30-day period. So it's almost like continuing your access that you already have for free, essentially. Like you have that period of time to make that decision. This kind of extends that. And, you know, like that kind of provides that extra layer of safety. So just wanted to mention that. And then for the people live on this call right now, we have an even better deal for sweetening these packages with some extra bonuses. I want to cover, or I want to pass it over to Taylor to cover those real quick. So Taylor, you're on mute, by the way.
Thanks, Jeremy. Yeah, and the thing, again, one of the things I love about this community is that there's no offer of thing that we sell across all of our portfolio of stuff, from the services on the agency side to admission to Statless to all these things, where I'm more confident in the delivery of the value for you. One call, like if you think about the quarterly membership plan, the ability to get on with a CTC media bar, anybody in an organization, and walk them step by step through, here's my Black Friday, Cyber Monday build. What do you think? Like, the value in that one call alone, setting aside everything else in the ecosystem, will deliver the benefit of this system, I promise you. But beyond that, here's what I want to do. For anybody on this call exclusively, 2 specific offers. 1, anybody who buys the annual membership right now, your one-on-one call in Q4 will be with me. I will be the one that sits with you, walks through the business opportunity, anything that you want to talk about for an hour. So you get the 4 free calls over the course of the year, but the Q4 call will be with me personally. I will sit with you and we will go through your business. And whether you're an agency owner, brand owner, whatever you want to talk about, that call will be with me. The second thing that I want to say is that if you do the quarterly membership right now in Q4, we're going to include in the $299 a month a free 3-month subscription to Statless. So in Q4, you will get access to all of the data tool, all the cohort specific LTV and benchmarking and all the insights to help you make a decision included in that quarterly membership, only if you book during this call. Okay. So if you join the annual membership, your one-on-one call is with me personally. If you join the quarterly membership, you get Statless included in the thing. And that's only good for the 1 hour that we're going to stand here and talk together. So again, setting those aside, we are going to massively over deliver on this value. There's a money back guarantee. There's basically no risk. The opportunity and upside that we have to deliver on is I have to look at this and go, okay, for $299 a month over the next 3 months, can I deliver $900 in value to you as a business owner? And I have zero doubt about our ability to do that through the content community. Hell, you'll get that out of each other. Here's the other thing about this community is that if you go into Slack, what you'll notice is it's not just us. You're surrounded by a bunch of co-journeyers going through, and that's part of the value here, is that setting aside the CTC content, people, documents, all this stuff, you'll get that value from each other. Just the ability to go, hey, has anybody had this issue? Has anybody ever worked with this business or this product? And the ability to leverage that community will deliver. So those are the special offers. Year long, you get me one-on-one for your consulting session. Quarterly membership, you get Statless included for free. So that's what we have for you. Super excited for all of you to check that out and continue on this journey with us. And Jeremy, anything else before we get into it?
Yeah, a couple more things. So we should have, I don't have the chat open, so we should have a link to this page right here that you see where you can choose your option. It should be in the chat now. So that's where you can get to this page. You can choose your options. Another thing that you might have noticed here at the top is that we only have 75 spots available. Reason for that is because rewinding to the beginning of this call, we welcome 2,300 people. If we let everybody in, we don't have the backing as far as like the manpower, women power to serve everybody. So what we've done is we've calculated how many people we can bring on all at one time where it's not going to break the support. So that number is 75. We expect that to go really quickly, especially with Taylor offering those really generous bonuses on here. Statless, 3 months for free if you take the quarterly, and then one of your 4 calls being with the man himself, Taylor. I suggest that you pick those up. And like I said, the link should be in the chat there. And if you have any questions about membership, then you could also put them in the Q&A as well. And I'll cover those as we go through the questions and answer session. So again, link for this page is in the chat. And then you can go ahead and join now by clicking any of the 3 links for any of these packages here. All righty, so let me go ahead and stop sharing here, and then let's go ahead and get started with this Q&A. I'm going to go ahead and open this up.
So awesome. Again, looks like we've got a bunch in there, Jeremy. Please keep piling them in. I'm going to roll through as many as I can. Like I said, I'll stay as long as you want. And this is the time to get really, really selfish. What is the one thing that you're wondering or worried about that we can answer? And we'll do our best to give you as much specific insights. And if you're asking account questions, the more details you can give us about your current situation, product, etc., it's helpful. So let's rock and roll.
Rock on. Okay, so first one here. Hi, I have a question about small budget campaigns. The daily budget for campaign is only, what is that, 15 euro? And actually, I don't know if that's euro or not, but let's say daily budget for small campaign regarding to CTC recommendation. I created only one ad set in the campaign. And in this ad set, I combined these audiences, interests, lookalike, website visitors, 30-day. Is it okay to combine all audiences together in one single ad set? Many thanks for any answers.
Yeah. So what I would say is that when you're dealing with a budget this small, this is the only way to go. And what I'm just going to caution you is, and I'm going to say this a lot because this is one of the primary questions that we get, okay, is about what do I do when I have a small budget? And what I want us to understand is that there is a real limitation to the effectiveness of the tool relative to the amount of information that you provide to it. Facebook is a machine learning system. It requires inputs, and those inputs are relative to the objective that you want. So if you're saying, I'm trying to go out and get conversions, the more conversions that you feed it, the more it understands about the kind of people that convert, the more it's able to find more people like that. So you are dealing with a limitation, and you've just got to understand that your ability to utilize tool to the fullness of its power is going to be substantially less than people with large budgets. And that's just the reality. It's unfortunate. I wish that were flipped in some way, but the reality is the more data that you have, the more information, the more effective the optimization. And so you're going to be dealing with a limitation. So what I would say is that when you have a small budget, especially that size, without knowing what your average order value is, right? Because that's a big component of it. You're going to have to do two things. One, you're going to have a very narrow set of campaign structural setup. And that I wouldn't even separate out stages of the funnel. So like you're saying, the only thing I might do depending on product system is exclude your existing customers, make sure you're going out and getting new ones. But in terms of trying to delineate between prospecting or remarketing, I don't care. So I would just set up those interests audience or even broad or in potentially a lookalike. Again, you don't need a big audience here. You have a small budget. So the more, depending on how much data you have on your pixel is another thing. If you have a lot of historical purchases as a business, you might be able to just run broad and leave website visitors, everybody in there. If you have not that many, I might try and create a narrow lookalike and start and try and aim the pixel at first because it doesn't have the data to initially identify your core customer set. And then here's the real key, Montage. You're going to have to wait, okay? And wait and wait and wait before you make any decision about whether or not that campaign is or is not working. And this is the hardest thing with a small budget, is that what's going to happen is 2 or 3 days in, it is either going to be working or not working. But that data that you're going to see, you've got to tell your eyes and tell your brain that I cannot trust these results for a long time. Because you need a meaningful number of conversions before the outcome is actually optimized. And what you don't want to do, a lot of times what we do in a campaign is it's a process of optimization over time, meaning the best performance is yet to come. And if you pay for the early stages of optimization and then kill the campaign on the basis of what just happened, you're actually missing out on the better future performance. And so you're just going to have to set it, get your best creatives in there. And again, you can't do too many because you have a very small budget. So you're gonna have to put more thought in the front end of these are my best ads. You're gonna have to take your shot and you're gonna have to wait. And that's really the key.
Rock on. Cool. All right. Next question. How do you guys make intraday scaling or cutting decisions in your ad account since Facebook reporting has been delayed 48 hours? Do you rely on UTMs linked with your campaign IDs?
So I would say that we try to avoid making intraday scaling decisions. Now, the caveat being, if we're going to talk about something like Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or a big sale moment where you're trying to maximize that individual day outcome, but very rarely are we trying to sort of day trade our ad accounts where we're trying to make adjustments on a day-to-day set of information. Again, because what we're assuming is that our decision-making process in that moment, Syed, what I'm doing, if I as a media buyer doing that, is I'm loading up a campaign, I'm looking at historical data, and I'm trying to make a causal indication about what will happen in the future that is better than Facebook's optimization algorithm. And I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to fail at doing that. You will be wrong. Your assertion about the causal relationship between the past performance and future performance will be incorrect. And so the best thing you can do is have a campaign structure that in an ideal scenario includes cost caps to protect the downside of the campaign, to set your budget, and then allow Facebook to optimize across the available options that you give it, and not to play this game of intraday scaling on the basis of individual performance. The only time we play this game is on a day where we're trying to make Black Friday, Cyber Monday, we're trying to maximize that individual outcome. And at that point, we're even being directional at best. So what we're going to do is, like, let's say we're trying to spend $100,000 on that day. We're probably going to launch like $200,000 worth of campaigns, and we're going to try and narrow into the best performing stuff as the day goes on. And what we're really looking for, candidly, is stuff that is disproportionately better than another. Because when you think about statistical significance, like if you were to run an A/B test on something, the wider the margin of the outcome, the more trustworthy it is in a smaller sample size. So like if there's, let's say you have something that's at a 1.1 ROAS and a 1 ROAS and across 10 purchases, there's basically actually no distinction in that outcome. But if something's running at like a 5 to 1 and something's running at a 1.0 to 1, well, then you can be more confident in the distinction between those budgets. So again, as much as possible, we're trying to remove human decision-making from the ad account. We're allowing humans to do things that humans are good at, build correct structures for machine learning, go after creative, think about understanding marginal costs, setting targets appropriately. But when it comes to optimization and allocation of capital across accounts, that's where we want to lean on the machine learning tools as much as possible.
Cool. Great questions in here, by the way. I want to remind everybody to drop your questions into the Q&A feature. I'll try to go back into the chat later and see if there's anything that was accidentally put in there, but I'm taking everything first from the Q&A area. So go ahead and drop in there. All right, James, we are currently in the process of attempting to get our campaigns out of learning. We are hoping to do so by mid-October. In preparation for Black Friday, what is the best practice in taking those campaigns that come out of learning and tweak the creative with different angles, with Black Friday text, free shipping, etc.? Do we edit those campaigns or duplicate them, change the creative / copy, and retain the same budget as the campaigns that were out of learning? Or edit those campaigns that came out of learning for Black Friday sale?
Or leave them alone. Okay, so this is another thing that what people don't realize is that we think that what we have to do on Black Friday, Cyber Monday is we have to make ads that say Black Friday and Summer Monday. And what I'll tell you is you don't. Oftentimes, and this is like frustrating because we all want to make cool creative that tells and promotes ourselves, but we regularly see your evergreen ads be your best performing ads on Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So what I would say, James, is what you're going to do is you're going to co-opt the creative learning from the ads. Okay, so you're going to take that campaign that's running out of learning, hopefully at target, and the learning is good, and especially if the learning is good, we're going to leave that one on for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. We're not going to touch it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate the campaign. Okay, and now you're going to go out and you're going to create some Black Friday, Cyber Monday creative based on the learnings of the ad format, ad type, and you're going to adjust the angle in the text or copy to match it. And you're going to launch both of them, but you're not going to turn your evergreen one off or edit it. Once you have a funnel that is performing at target, we sort of have a rule that's like, leave well enough alone. Like you don't go back and edit the thing that is doing the thing that you want it to do. You extract those learnings and try and replicate them at other places. But if that is performing at target and it's out of learning phase, like that is the goal of a media buyer is to get as many campaigns, we call them pipes, as possible that are performing at target out of learning phase. Like that is like, I have won and I want to milk that for as much as I possibly can, not mess with it. Now, if I want to extract the learnings and try and create more pipes, more delivery options, I will do that. But I would say that you don't even have to edit it. You just leave it running. And I know it sounds crazy. It doesn't say Black Friday and Cyber Monday, Taylor, but people know this. It's intuitive enough that it's a cultural moment that you'll see that sometimes your evergreen ads will be your best performing even in those moments.
Cool. One thing I want to mention here real quick before we get to the next question, because I saw this a little bit further down. If you are a current member of Admission and you want to upgrade into either of the other options that we just covered on here, quarterly or annual, you have the ability to do so. Go ahead and you can go to that link and use it. And then if you want to choose one of those options, because I saw like a couple of current members were like, oh, I wish I could get this deal. Go ahead and just use that same link to upgrade your account, and then we can take care of the rest on the back end. So no worries, you're totally eligible. We want to make sure you get everything that we mentioned on here. So use that link that's in the chat. If somebody wants to drop it again, I know we've got a lot of chats, or I don't know if it's pinned or whatnot, but use that link and you can upgrade through that same page. All right. Next question, Taylor. What does the onboarding process look like for clients in CTC? What do you look for before onboarding any clients?
Yeah, this is a great question. So for any agency folks out there, the question I try and think about to start. So in the sales process, we do a lot of work. I would say more so than we've ever done before to ensure that the client is set up in a position where what we offer is the thing that will make an impact. Okay. So what do I mean by this? There's lots of businesses that have many things going on that need to be improved prior to us being able to be effective on utilizing our specific services to be successful. So what we're looking for is, does what we do, will it make a positive impact on the financial presence of this business? If yes, then that's sort of checkbox one. And we use that by looking at sort of the present state of their performance, areas where we see a gap. Is there supply chain in place to even be able to take advantage of scale? A bunch of things like that. And then the second thing, then this has become more and more of a reality as we've grown, is like, do we have shared values? And what I'll tell you is that the service business for your people inside of the company can be taxing. And the toll of working with clients that don't share your values is an immense emotional and cultural toll on the business that will not be worth whatever the money is. And what do I mean by that? I mean that you work really hard, likely we do at CTC, to establish values, a cultural definition of who we are. And if you allow into the system an employee or a client who functions counter to those values, what you're going to do is you're going to deteriorate your own culture. So let me give you an example. We have a value at CTC that we call respect the rest. And the idea is that to be the best version of yourself at work, it actually takes self-care and drawing boundaries and figuring out how to ensure that you are rested and well prepared to be effective at your role. So, and oftentimes what we try and do is we try and protect people's, like work hours and things like that. So if we have a client that comes in that is slacking and calling everybody at 9 p.m. and expecting that our people respond to them in a moment's notice, and we go, yeah, you have to do that because the client wants it, well, we've just deteriorated our value. Same thing for our diversity and inclusion initiatives. If we have clients that come in that don't share those values, we're going to damage our own values in the process. And I'm actually working on right now an article about how to be a great partner that I'm basing off of a letter that David Ogilvy wrote many years ago about what a successful partnership looks like. And we're going to go through a bunch of things in bullet points. But those two come to mind right away, Biz, which is like this idea that, can our services impact the business positively financially? And then secondly, are there shared values in who we are as business owners and the way that we run our businesses? And if so, those tend to be really fruitful relationships. And what I'll say is that the value of a client that is with you for a really, really long time is worth it, like orders of magnitude more than the client who comes for a short time and leaves. And so just spending more, if you think about this from an LTV standpoint, if you spend longer in the sales process to ensure that alignment, the cost of that acquisition will be so dramatically trumped by the value of that customer that it'll be worth it on the front end. Now, the one thing I'll add to that, because I know there's a question about this additionally, is that there's a phrase that I also try and work with our sales and service to understand, which is this idea that there is an acceptable failure rate. Okay. And what I mean by that is that we can't guarantee that we know everything will be successful when a client comes through the door. What we're doing is applying our best analysis to the present state of their business on the basis of a number of different metrics to determine, do we believe we can be successful? But it's actually okay that we fail sometimes, because if we never fail, that would mean that the aperture of the clients is too narrow, that we need to actually widen who we attempt to serve. And it's okay sometimes that we fail. Failure is a part of the service business. And so we think about this as like trying to define for ourselves, what is the acceptable failure rate? And then defining and measuring retention to determine if we're doing a good enough job on both the filter and service side to make sure that we're providing great work.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Next one from David. Not sure if we're going to be able to mention the beginning portion of this. Who out of all of your clients is doing surprisingly well in terms of MER, and what is unique about their business model or marketing approach?
Yeah, so this is a great question. Okay, can I share my screen, Jeremy? Can I?
You should be able to. If not, let me know. There you go. You're good.
Okay, do you see me?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to answer this question with some data. So one of the big things right now is, right, like everyone's experiencing a decline in Facebook ROAS. Okay, so like if I look at, this is the benchmarks tool inside of Statless. If you all haven't seen this before, this is our data platform, the one I'm saying you could get access to for free. So here's what I see. Okay, on a Facebook ROAS basis. So I'm looking. This is all of 2021. Okay, so the red line is our own brand Bamboo Art. So I'll just remove that. So this green line right here represents the aggregate view of all of the stores inside of Statless. Okay, so what I see is that pre-iOS, our average ROAS across accounts was somewhere between 2.5 to 3 to 1. Okay, so that was like the average return. And what you can see is since iOS, it's dropped to closer to 1.5 to 1 in many cases. In total, it's about a 30 to 40% reduction in reported ROAS across all of the ad accounts. But okay, what I want to show you now is the next thing I'm going to show you is a benchmark for MER. Okay, so MER, for those of you that don't know, marketing efficiency ratio, total sales divided by total ad spend, okay, across the same group of clients. So remember, reported ROAS down a meaningful amount, but MER, as you can see, actually has continued to increase for our partners. And again, this is all about our understanding of how are we spending our dollars and ensuring we're holding them to a standard of profitability. Now, you may say, well, Taylor, that's just a makeup of the existing customer revenue subsidizing a lot of that loss. Okay, well, let's look at another metric we created called AMER. Okay, so AMER is new customer revenue over total ad spend. So again, another way to assess the performance of our overall media against acquiring new customers, which is in many cases the primary point. You can see, again, same period of time, where's that dip that Facebook happened? Where's that precipitous decline in performance? Well, the reality is there wasn't a precipitous decline in performance. There was a precipitous decline in attribution. But what we have seen is that many businesses with the ability to bring forward this insight are able to continue to make decisions against acquisition strategies that are highly effective. Now, what I'll say is that I talk all the time about 3 attributes that businesses have that are growing profitably, okay? Every business that's growing profitably has at least one of these attributes. The really fast growing ones have 2 and the unicorns have all 3. Okay, so here's what they are. You ready? 50% of their traffic, okay, is organic. So what do I mean by that? At least 50% of their traffic is organic. So this is what a graph that we would call your traffic pie. Okay, so in other words, how much of your traffic is coming from various sources. So I think about this in terms of Google Analytics channels. So here's channel definitions: email, SMS, paid social, direct, branded paid search, organic search, generic paid search, SMS, social, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so the brands that are growing profitably get at least 50% of their traffic organic, meaning it's not paid for. So what are organic channels? Email and SMS is organic, right? Direct is organic search, okay? Social, organic social, and referral are going to be your organic sources. So brands that are winning still in this moment have a source of traffic. In this case, you can see for Bamboo Earth, a lot of it is our email and SMS that we work really hard to grow and build that list. Or they have an SEO, organic SEO placement. They have a large audience on social. They have some mechanism for driving organic traffic. That's attribute number 1 that they will have. The second attribute, I'm going to go back to the benchmarks report because I think it's a cool view of this, is that they have at least a 30% increase in LTV within 60 days and a 100% increase within a year. So this graph right here shows a bar chart of every brand, okay, and what their 30 or their 60-day LTV increase is by percentage. So you can see 30% is about right here. Of the stores, you can see that, so about of the 220 or so stores, about 40 of them are in that range where they have this really strong LTV increase, okay? And then the third attribute is that they have about 90th percentile outcomes on Facebook. So their Facebook ROAS usually runs better than 2.5, 3 to 1. So again, they have one of these things because what that means is that they're able to drive a high MER. Their MER is able to run at 4 or 5 to 1 in a way that they are scaling profitably. Because when your CAC represents less than 20% of your revenue, you have a high likelihood of producing profitable outcomes as a business. And so that's usually some of those attributes. Either one of those 3 has to exist. The great businesses have 2 and the unicorns have all 3. So that's what I'm seeing. So 1, we're seeing lots of brands continue to win. There's a big narrative out there in the world that everyone is failing. And I'll tell you that is not the story inside of CTC. I can't speak for the rest of the world. I can speak for the 220 stores that we have in here and all of our clients. Yes, there are brands that are struggling, but it is not a collective guaranteed struggle on the basis of Facebook performance declining.
Cool. And one thing I want to mention too, because I know we're going to get questions on this, that was Statless that Taylor was showing you.
Yep.
If you click on the link in the chat to continue your membership and you take that quarterly option, that's where you get 3 months of Statless completely free. And the cool thing about that is, if I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, Taylor, but Statless is not available to the public.
No,
currently.
It's exclusively to CTC clients and admission members right now.
Yeah. So you can't just get this like being outside of the ecosystem. So definitely recommend taking advantage of that. Or if you do the annual package, remember that one of those 4 calls that you get for free are with Taylor. So just wanted to remind everybody of that. The link should be in the chat to go to that page and take up those offers. All right. Next one here, longer question here. 500 purchases, just start non-ads. Just recently started with ads last week. I started with a specific product, stacked broad interest. I got 3 purchases within 3 days at $20 a day. Made a mistake with a credit card and there was a missed payment, and tried to relaunch, and now it's not doing as good. So is there anything that could be done in a scenario like that?
Okay, so here's the thing. Here's what I want you to tell you. And this is really, really, really important. You're not actually doing better or worse than before. Okay? This is really, really important. Those 3 purchases that you had before mean nothing. The poor performance that you have now in a small sample size means nothing. This is really important. This is the number one thing that as a media buyer, we have to understand about data, and we have to understand about optimization. 3 purchases or $300 spent with no purchases, they mean the same thing. They mean nothing. It feels different. Don't get me wrong. One of them means you had money in your bank account and the others, but in terms of an assessment of the performance of the ads, you are not doing better or worse. You do actually not have an answer yet in terms of how you're doing. And this is the problem with a high AOV product and a small budget. And I'm going to go back to the first thing I said in the beginning. You're going to have to wait and wait and wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. And at the end of it, you might find out that it didn't work. And that's the challenge. But if you allow yourself to think that any of the short-term outcomes, and this is why looking at the ad account can be the most addictive, dangerous thing that you can do with a tiny budget, is that you're just going to make decisions that are not accurate. And you're going to run around chasing your tail, attempting to do something based on decisions that aren't actually actionable. And I know this is hard and it's frustrating. And it's a bummer that people with giant budgets get to make decisions way faster and learn quicker, but it doesn't change the objective reality of data that we have to live within. So please don't tell yourself that you're failing. Don't tell yourself that you won before either. Set up the campaign, the right structure, commit to an amount of dollars, knowing that it may not work at the end of it, and just wait. And wait and wait. And that's why you cannot depend on this as your primary growth channel at this stage of your business. It won't work. So you've got to go out and do the hard work of grinding out traffic and sales in other places before you can leverage this tool for growth. So that's what I would say. It's hard. I know the feeling, Ada. I get it. It's hard to sit with that, but it's true.
Yeah, it's huge. All right, next question. For small budget, do you recommend testing an ABO and then scaling them on CBO on a bigger budget? Does CC work for brands with less than 500 sales per month?
So let's see. Okay.
I'm missing something. Does CC work?
Cost cap.
Oh, cost cap. Yeah.
So do you recommend testing on ABO? And this, again, if your budget is, again, when we say small budgets, it's really important that when you say that, if you could tell me the actual budget relative to the AOV and your ROAS target, right? Because here's the point, and this goes to the question, Ada, that you just asked, like, what's the time that I have to wait? Well, it's till you get out of learning phase, which they'll tell you is roughly 50 conversions per week per ad set. Okay? Like, this is the thing, is like when you deal with data, it doesn't mean anything for a really long time. So anybody who's telling you you can make a decision at 2 times the ad price or whatever it is, like, you're wrong. It's not true. Like that's why Facebook is moving everybody to machine learning, right? They're trying to say, just set the budgets and get out of the way because you're all making bad decisions. That's candidly why they're doing this. is because they want their tools to work and they have the data to know how they work best. And they don't work best with injecting human decisions based on small sample sizes about predictive outcomes in the future. It doesn't. And so, Augustine, like without knowing your exact budget, cost caps struggle when you don't have lots of data. They do, because there's no indication. If you think about what a cost cap is saying is like, hey, here's a set of parameters that narrow the targeting of who you can go after based on an outcome criteria, which includes one of the primary metrics that's used, and that is expected conversion rate, ECR. So Facebook will, based on users' individual history, they'll be able to determine in the product category and your product an expected conversion rate, right? And the problem is if they don't have a lot of conversion data for you, determining the ECR is really difficult. So how do they know what to bid on a CPM level in order to distribute your ads? So yes, cost caps struggle with small budgets. Again, what you're going to hear over and over is the reality that Facebook as a tool is not best served in, especially on a prospecting basis, for small budgets. And that's just why it's like, what is this tool good for? And what part of the growth phase does it serve for a business? I think you just have to ensure that when you set a budget, you're saying to yourself, take the conversions that you want. You got a $100 order and you need 50. You want, to do it at least 2 to 1. So you need a $2,500 budget. And you're saying to yourself, I'm going to spend $2,500 before I make a decision. And I'm going to be prepared for the fact that it might not work. And that's that you have to get to that mental place before you commit to the utilization of the tool. Otherwise, you won't be ready to actually utilize it correctly and effectively. And I get it. That's frustrating. The only caveat would be what you can do is set up like your DPA and remarketing. If you have small budgets, that's what I would actually focus on, because those are qualified audiences where you don't need Facebook to sort of go out and find who. You're sort of saying, hey, I'm driving some traffic to my site. I want to make sure that if they come, I'm going to pick up that low-hanging fruit. And if I had a really small budget, I would start with my DPA, $5, $6 a day. Then I would move to my remarketing audience. And then I wouldn't go to prospecting until I had enough to actually spend for 50 conversions in a week.
Rock on. Cool. All right. Next question is coming from John. Any tips for when your ads engagement rate and quality rank is high, but conversion rate is ranking low?
Okay. So when I think about this, there's an incongruence in the promise that you're making the ad, the experience that they're having on the website, and the actual delivery of the product, right? So I could say to someone, like we had, you could come up with a very clickbaity way to get people to show up to your website. But if ultimately the product and the promise doesn't deliver on what the ad says, they're not going to convert. And so this is where there has to be a continuity between the message that you're saying in the ad, the experience on the landing page, and the actual sort of reviews, engagement, and surrounding ecosystem of the product. And so what it sounds like to me is you've got an ad that's doing the good job of advertising, getting people to engage, but something about the experience when they show up to the next stage is breaking for them. That's not actually getting them across the line. So whatever the thing is that's driving them on the engagement level, it's not matching at the next stage of it. So what I would do, John, is I would go read your ad. I would click on it on a mobile phone. I would go to the website and I would ask myself, for the person that I'm serving this to, does the promise that I'm making in the ad, is it matched by the product in a way that would get them all the way across the line? Because as you're describing, you have a conversion rate problem. There's a great, one of the best brands that I'm obsessed with how good they are at doing this right now. I'm going to see if I can pull this up while I'm talking, is a company called Loop earplugs. Okay. So this is a company that sold, they used before the, Loop earplugs. I'm going to find them for you while I'm talking. Before the pandemic, they sold earplugs for festival goers. Like you're going to, a big music festival and you're going to be there all weekend and it's like going to, drive your ears nuts. And so you need earplugs. Okay. I'm going to share my screen as I talk about this because they're so freaking good at this exact thing that I'm talking about. And guess what happened? Well, when the pandemic came, that all went away, right? There was no festivals anymore to sell through. So what they had to do is they had to figure out new angles. Okay. They had to come up with new ways to deliver the message and value proposition to a different customer set. And again, one of my favorite quotes, I had a client say to me while I was trying to talk to him about seasonality, an Israeli gentleman who had been in direct response marketing for a really long time. He stops and he says, Taylor, there's an angle for everything all the time. Remember that. There's an angle for everything all the time. And that's our job as marketers, is to live in that world where there is an angle for everything all the time. Okay, so look at this. This is great. So you lose your core business. The pandemic comes. What do you do? Well, let's pick, where's my favorite? Okay, so here's a great one. Motorcyclists, okay? So all of a sudden they're like, well, people who ride motorcycles need earplugs, the sound of the motor all the time. So they design ads for this, and then boom, I click on the ad. Come on, don't let me down. Oh, this one goes to the PDP. I'm gonna find one. They build these category pages. Oh, dang it, come on, loop. And what they do is they alter the value proposition of the category page for the specific brand all the way through. Let's find one of these because it's so good. So you can see they have triggered by noise. Let me see this one. Okay, open link in tab so I don't lose this. Dang, these are all dropping the PDP. Oh, no, dang it, that was it. Okay, hold on, sorry. Okay, so you see this, so you can see pages / noise sensitivity. Okay, so you can see these are, so people, they went after a lot of people in the autistic community. They went after parents, people who deal with noise and are triggered by it and causes anxiety. So triggered by noise, they have this little graph, repetitive sounds, talking, loud noises, constant noises, high-pitched sounds, show this little graph built specifically for a subset of users. Okay, now let's see if I can find one where they take that same value proposition. Okay, and let's see if they do it on this one. Dang. I'm gonna find you one. Where they take this same idea, but the page is adjusted for the specific audience that they're going after. And so what they do is they map all the way through the experience. Yes, found it. Okay. So you can see same thing, loop earplugs, pages, motorcycle earplugs. So look at these two landing pages, okay? Same exact, oh, where is it? This one. Okay, so let's look at these side by side. So triggered by noise, motorcycle person. Same graph, different value proposition, wind noise, exhaust, high-pitched sounds, etc. Okay, and so what they do is they make sure that the experience in the ad creates continuity all the way through for the user relative to the specific audience that they have. This brand's Facebook ads run in that 90th percentile. They absolutely smash. And so when I think about high engagement rates, low conversion, what it feels like is somewhere along the way, it broke, right? Somewhere along the way for the user, the promise that it made them engage. And I'm assuming engagement, what we really care about is outbound CTR, right? Like we're not just talking about likes, comments, people getting triggered or angry, but this brand is an example of somebody who does a great job of saying, I have a value proposition for a specific user. I'm going to draw you in with the ad. The engagement's going to be for an offer that makes sense. And then when you show up on the landing page, it's going to be a continuity of experience that's going to increase the conversion rate. And that's how you do great actual advertising. Because remember, the ad's just the first part. It has a partner in this process, which is the actual website experience.
Awesome. All right. Real quick, as we're running low on time, I just want to remind everybody that link in the chat can bring you to the page where you can continue membership with admission. And then specifically only, I want to make this really clear, the options that we have, the annual where you get one of your free calls with Taylor, and then the quarterly package where you get 3 months of stat list completely free. That is only for people who continue their membership sign up on this live call right now. After that, those bonuses are off the table, and it'll go back to once we have 75 people who've signed up, which I know a bunch of people have. I haven't been able to add it all up, but yeah, basically I just want to make it clear that those bonuses are off the table after this live call ends. So make sure that you secure those and you go to the link in the chat to continue membership for admission, and try to get to as many of these questions here as possible. I know we're running low on time here. Okay, where were we? All right, Warren D. Hi, Taylor. In terms of ideal audience size, what size do you look for on the ad set level? And in terms of looking to create a niche brand, what is a good total minimum audience size for a low 7-figure brand?
So I really don't care that much about audience size. Here's what I'll say. I think that so little of the value we should be providing as marketers is about manually selecting the audiences based on things that we think mean things that don't. Okay. So what I mean by that is, what is an interest audience? Does anybody know what puts a person into an interest audience? Let's say my interest is volleyball. Is that because I played volleyball? Is it because I clicked on a page once? Is it like, what actually makes that an interest of mine? And is it actually true that the interest is a positive correlation, right? So we assert these things about what these audience definitions mean that we don't actually really know, right? And so I'm very hesitant to go out and create these really niche layered audiences, especially for brands with smaller budgets. So in a lot of times, like one, I've got to realize that most of the time my budget is not big enough to worry about the size of my audience being exhausted. And then secondarily, it's very unlikely that I'm going to be trying to niche down my product audience with audience definitions, because all I'm going to be doing likely in that case is increasing the CPM. And I want to give Facebook the ability to find the right user for me on the base of data and feedback. So unless you have something that is like a very specific parameter that might be different than what's on the pixel. So for Loop as an example, if I was selling to all concert goers and then suddenly I want to pivot to going after motorcyclists, well, now I have to define the audience because my historical data is different than what's presently true. But other than that, usually I'm going to let the creative draw a distinction and move me to the right audience most of the time.
Rock on. Taylor, you have time for a couple more here?
Yeah, let's rock.
Sweet. All right. Sean says, can you talk a bit about a brand's growth journey with CTC?
Yep.
Specifically how the growth group manage the growth guides manage differs from expert.
Yep. So when we do our expert services, they're individual channel services. We're just managing Facebook. We're just managing Google. We're just managing email and SMS. So we have to be responsible narrowly for the performance of that individual channel. Okay, so that's like the primary difference. When we're on the growth team, we are responsible for your revenue and profit growth across the entirety of your business. Okay, and on that level, the primary thing we're stepping into that is a big distinction is we are going to be involved in the financial conversations of your business, beginning with forecasting. We have a very specific methodology that we help bring to bear for our clients about looking at their P&L, plugging in all their costs, and then projecting revenue on the basis of cohort-specific LTVs to frame up the expectation of where your business is trying to go and to force clients to answer the question, in what window are you attempting to maximize profit? Okay, and then we're going to be having conversations around their inventory, their balance sheet, how we think about the marginal consideration of the sales that we're going after. The level of sophistication on a growth team is so much higher, and what we're attempting to do is produce financial outcomes for the entirety of the business, not just try and make your individual channel perform. And so our job in that case is to come in and develop an intimacy and working knowledge of what you're attempting to do as a business holistically, and then use all the levers available to us: Facebook, Google, Snapchat, Pinterest, TikTok, email, SMS, feedback on organic, whatever it might be, LTV consideration, product development, marketing calendars, roadmaps, to help you go out and achieve a financial outcome. So on the expert level, we're measuring on channel performance. At the growth team level, we're measuring on the financial outcome of your business, usually profit.
Rock on. I think you'll find this hilarious, Taylor, that Diego just ordered Loop earplugs. So
they're really freaking good at it. They know who it's for, what it's for, and how to communicate it, right? So often when I see ads, like, it grieves me to my soul how the product description and messaging is for no one. Okay. You know what, like, here's a great exercise to go do for your ads right now. If you go look up your ad creative right now and you see any generic statement that says like 5,000 5-star reviews. Okay. I don't care about that. Is that me? Am I one of those 5,000 people? I would much rather have you say like 243 e-commerce business owners did ba 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 or said da 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 than to tell me that there's 5,000 generic humans that liked a thing. Go rewrite your headlines 5 times more specifically. 5,000 5-star reviews. Okay. 2,400, women loved this. Okay, no. Now I'm gonna take the word women. I'm gonna be more specific. I'm gonna write it again. I'm gonna write it again. I'm gonna write it again. And you can turn one ad into 10 specific ads that will have way better engagement rates than what you're thinking of. So go and be specific. Say something to somebody. Okay, I tell this story all the time because it's such a great reminder to me. Jonah Peretti, founder of BuzzFeed. Okay, one of the best social content companies in the history of the universe. Their entire premise for writing articles was, when someone's scrolling on social, our job is to make them stop and go, that's me. That's me. That article is about me. Okay. And the way they would do that, they would say headlines like things kids from the 90s would only understand. Okay. Ooh, I'm a kid from the 90s. I was 10 years old in the 90s, right? Like that, this article must be for me. Now, the thing is, it's brilliant. It's for a lot of people. There were a lot of kids in the 90s, but it's messaged to me in a way that I opt into the content versus like 5,000 5-star reviews does not invite me into it uniquely. So that's like one of the big things. And I think Luke does this. Like if you ride motorcycles and you've had an experience of your headphones hurting, like you realize this is for you and you're going to opt into it. So, all right, keep going.
Awesome. All right. Sam is uploading offline events on Facebook, followed by setting up a Zap to continue the flow. A good idea. Will it help with tracking? Struggling to scale with lack of visibility?
Yeah, Sam. I mean, feed it everything you can. I don't know that it certainly doesn't solve the problem, right? But I do think that every bit of data can help. Now, what I'll say is we've put out a lot of content inside of Statless. We have what we call the iOS Impact Report, which shows you sort of ad performance across a myriad of different metrics. So you're going to get Facebook ROAS, which I'll tell you is improving all the time. They published an article yesterday saying that they're missing about 15% of website conversions by their estimation. So not fully captured yet, but improving over time. And we have data to show that. So Facebook ROAS, Google Last Click ROAS, MER, and AMER, and weighted customer CAC. We're going to look at all of these and we're going to combine them directionally to make decisions. Unfortunately, the days of single metric, easy, simple decision making aren't there, but there is no one shortcut hack fix. We have to embrace this as entrepreneurs. There's not a Wicked Reports or a Hyros or a this offline thing or that thing that's going to solve it for you instantly. That's not the world you're in. Accept it and be ready to make decisions with more data. And that's where, again, our value proposition to you is we're going to help you find, sort, and access that information easily to make better holistic decisions.
Sweet. All right, next, Mohammed. Hey there, how would you warm up a new ad account? I opened this account because basically his was disabled and he wants to know how to warm up a new ad account.
Yeah, so this is like very media buyer language. I don't know what the phrase warm up an ad account means. I think this is a thing that we've like sort of, there was a long time where there was this narrative that like the way you warm up the pixel is first you run traffic and then you run landing page view and then you run add to carts and I'm like, no, don't do that. What you want, the way you warm up your ad account is you get a bunch of data on your pixel, which means you drive a bunch of purchases because the purchases are the thing that you want and you want to give it more information to find more purchases, right? So the best way to warm up your ad account is to sell things on your website that generate purchases that the pixel can track and apply in your ads in the future, or to run ads and make purchases and drive them. So the reality is that, yeah, like unfortunately, the reality of warming up an ad account is spend money to generate data to improve the outcome, or put the pixel on your site, go do the work of driving organic traffic to get enough purchases so that when you go, you have at least a foundational base of information. There's no shortcut here, right? Like there's no way to just say, oh, I can run traffic for a day and then I run add to cart for a day and then landing page for a day. That doesn't suddenly give you data about converters, right? Like it doesn't. And Facebook's going to play that game in the conversion optimization. They basically do this premise for you, which is they're running their own sort of sequencing. Like a lot of times what you'll see is when you launch a campaign, you'll see cheaper CPCs than you will later on. And so what Facebook will do is they're actually trying to find the CPM and the user type at which they can bid to actually create outcomes. And so you'll see sort of these CPCs go really low early on sometimes because they're attempting to just get enough traffic and indication of user engagement to then optimize your ad over time. So you don't actually need to do that. They're doing that. That's part of the mechanism of the algorithm. So set up conversion campaigns, be ready to run the budget, be prepared to invest in it, and go from there. There's just no other way to do it.
Cool. All right, I'm going to consolidate some of these here. Doug Silkstone, what's the best way to aggressively scale spend? Let's, for example, 5K to 10K a day target and give Facebook the best possible chance of doing its thing.
So what's the best way to aggressively scale spend? So man, I would really want to know why we have to be aggressive in the scale. I think that a lot of times if we take a step back and we ask ourselves, what is it that we're after? What is the actual motivation for it? And is the risk associated with aggressive budget changes worth an offset against the thing that's presently working? So when I think about aggressively scaling spend, if a client comes and this is the objective, what I want to do is I want to think about, again, how many pipes or delivery mechanisms can I do? So let's say I have a campaign, it's running at $2,000 a day and it's profitable. What I'm not going to do is take that budget and turn it to $10,000 a day. Okay. Because again, if I have a thing that is profitable, I don't want to alter the inputs of that profitable thing. So I might move it 20% a day at most to not reset the learning phase at the new budget. Okay. And then I'm going to stack more campaigns I'm going to launch additional campaigns with more budget on top of it to see if I can produce additional outcomes. Sometimes what we'll do is, like, let's say I have a campaign and it's profitable and I have 10 ads in it, but only 2 are getting delivery. What I might do is grab some of those other ads, duplicate the campaign and relaunch them to try and get delivery and see if those ads will work too. So there's lots of different ways, but what I would not do is try and one day turn a $2,000 budget into a $10,000 on a campaign that's working. I want to build more pipes. I want a diversified ad account with as many delivery options as I can, right? Just like an investment portfolio. As a capital allocator, if all my money's in one basket, if that basket falls apart, I break. If I have lots of investments that are returning capital for me, then I can move them all and I'm more diversified and less sort of over-indexed on any one campaign.
Sweet. Next one from Diego. Hope you're doing well, Diego. His question is why would you create like additional placements or creative specific for placements rather than just run 1x1 square for everything? Is there a difference? Is it going to impact your performance?
I'll tell you what the answer is because somebody on the brand side is like really sad when they see a square photo on a 9x16 placement. It's generally the reason. I honestly believe that like this is really just people being sensitive to their perception of how a thing should exist. I don't actually think it's often worth it unless you're really going to do the work of making the creative say, swipe up and click and draw really effort towards designing for the placement, which, don't get me wrong, best case scenario is you have an amazing team of designers and every designer has an expertise in each individual specific placement and you make the raddest stories placement and desktop newsfeed placement and Facebook mobile placement and you do a great job. But the reality is that's sort of a creative constraint for most of us. And I'll tell you that 1x1 will get you a long ways on almost every placement. Now, if you can, and if you have the time and you can design 9x16 and design specifically for every placement, then by all means do it. And it's worth it. But it's just your creative constraint. 1x1 can get you a long ways. And I think it looks perfectly fine on an IG story to see a 1x1 placement. That's a personal opinion.
Sweet. All right, Jacqueline, we are still implementing Google Shopping ads. Many of our ads were disapproved. We have requested a manual review. In one of the good webinars in the library on this, it was stated that sometimes the only way to get the product to an approved status is to change the product ID. How do you change the product ID within Google Shopping ads?
That's going to be drop that in a Slack. That's like a Tony Chop or Rain or one of the Google. Actually, that's like a little too in the weeds for me.
Yeah, for sure.
But really take that question, and Sam, maybe you can even go direct Slack one of the managers real fast for them and see if we can get Jacqueline an answer. So you can do that through Process for the question there. Thank you, Kristen. See, again, look, this is the community value, right? Like whatever you get from me, I guarantee you there's somebody here, whether it's on our team or in the community, that knows the answer. So Process looks like an answer. Sam will go get you another answer from one of the Google people on our team, and we'll get that for you, Jacqueline.
Rock on. All right, Mohammed, if I have 2 websites, one is running in US, other in Australia, would you use one business manager and separate ad accounts for each country, or how do you structure?
You need to have a relationship between the website and the pixel and the ad account, right? So that's one of the limitations with iOS. So if I have 2 separate websites that have separate pixels, then I would say you need to have separate business managers for those, if I'm understanding the question correctly. So
yeah, I think you are. It's either, he's saying, do you run both ad accounts and one business manager, have separate business managers with separate ad accounts? Just looking for it.
If they're separate websites, I would. But so we have some clients where we run lots of countries to one website in one ad account. So you can run many countries to one website in one ad account. But I have separate websites. I'm going to run those in separate ad accounts, most likely.
For sure. All right, for let's see, where are we? For lookalike audiences on a small account that is just starting off, should we use an all-time purchaser list or a recent 180-day purchaser list?
If they're the same customer demographic, use the largest list possible. Okay, is what I would tell you. Now, if for some reason you think the customers changed and the data is like sort of variable, right? Then I might try and pick the window that references the kind of customer that you want. So again, use the loop example. If the year before they were concert goers and then they're motorcyclists, I'm not going to grab that total list and say, look, give me a lookalike off of this group, because like that's a pretty, the confusing set of data to feed a machine learning tool. But the likelihood is if it's a brand and you have had the same customer the whole time and it's a smallish list, the reality is your lookalike is going to be as valuable as the amount of information that you give it. Now, what I'll tell you is that this is an important thing. if you've had the pixel on the website, now again, I don't know that you have, but your broad audience is going to be functionally the same as a lookalike, right? So if you haven't had the pixel and now you need to upload an email list to create the initial lookalike, then great, do that. Give it as much information as possible, pull in as many customer fields as you can to increase the match rate, all those good things. But otherwise, if you've had the pixel on your website and all those purchases are also on the pixel, you can probably do both. Upload the email list, create the lookalike, and allow for audience expansion and go from there.
Rock on. By the way, Taylor, just let me know. I know we're going over time, and I appreciate everybody else. Super appreciates you being here and answering these questions. Which, by the way, just for the sake of that, Sam dropped in the link once again. Not to be robotic, but I want to make sure everybody understands that the annual bonus of having Taylor do one of your one-on-one calls, and for the quarterly, the 3 months of free stat list. Once this feed is cut, that bonus structure is also cut. So
so I don't know how much longer I'm going. It might be 5 minutes, might be 10, but go get it right now. And then you get a whole hour of just me and you hanging out, or access to basically the sort of the external export of my brain, which is statless, sort of built to function through. So let's keep going.
Sweet. That link's right at the bottom there for everybody. Sam just dropped it in, but just want to make everybody aware that we're just flying through these, and appreciate you, Taylor. So Dan is next. Creative testing is infinite. How do you best approach creative development when you have a limited budget and can't put too many creatives in there at once?
Okay, so this is important. The creative universe of possibility is infinite, but your creative output is not. You just defined constraints for me, right? You said you have a limited budget and you can't put too many creatives in there at once. So you actually do have a defined constraint. Okay, so here's the constraint. How many ads can you make? Okay, there's based on your budget. And if you have to get to 50 conversions per week and you have one ad set, I would not go more than, let's say, like 5 to 7 ads tops, right? Okay, so if I have that constraint, now I have a defined constraint. Now I'm going to think through my best angles and offers. Okay, when I think about angles, okay, the offer is what I'm selling. Okay, so this is how we think about creative. The offer is what I'm selling. This could be about a product. This could be about a promotion. This could be about a bundle. It could be about, it's the what. What are you buying? The angle is the reason in which someone would buy that offer. So this usually involves a specific value proposition to a specific audience. It's the approach that I'm taking to sell the product. Okay. If I'm selling a protein powder and it's January, the offer could be 20% off this protein bundle, and the angle would be like, get healthy for the new year. That's an example. It's a very simple example, but you get the idea. So the question is, if you have a creative constraint, what is your best offer? Start there. Start from thinking about a consideration of volume of demand for your product and margin on the sale of that product. That frames your offer. Then once you have the offer, define the best angle that you have, the best valuable proposition to the customer that you want to go after, and that's your constraint for 5 to 7 ads. Okay. Now within that, it shouldn't also be infinite even there, because your offers concepts are not infinite. There's a fixed number of things that you can sell. You got to pick the best one. Again, it's another constraint. And then the value proposition of that product is not infinite. There's another constraint. So while the visuals you can use and the copy, there's infinite variations, creative constraints are actually critical to producing great thought work. Open-ended universes are actually really hard to define creative within. Give yourself a boundary and then work within it. It'll help you get through it.
Rock on. All right. Next question. What would be your strategy if you were to run a Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale? So I would recommend going and checking out the webinar that we
have a whole webinar on that.
Yeah, it was the holiday offers webinar. So if you go to the recent trainings tab in the members portal, it's in there and it's fantastic. So I would recommend checking that out, and it'll lay a whole bunch of awesome information out there for you. So,
and if you haven't signed up yet, what are you doing? What are you doing right now? Why haven't you signed up? Because think about this. We are going to deliver in this same format. Every question that you have, there's a Slack channel. I'm there. Sam's there. Jeremy's there. The whole team's there. You can book any one of our people in a one-on-one training. Like Kristen's going to be there answering questions. She's fire. She's going to help us answer any question you have. There's an amazing community. These next 3 months are critical for your business. They call it Black Friday because it's how we get into profit. Don't let $299 stand between you and the outcome that we want to get context and access to all the information here. All right, I'm going for 5 more minutes. This is your 5-minute warning to get in there and make that happen. We'll get through as many as we can. I'm going to go rapid fire here, Jeremy.
All right, let's go. Mark, the pipeline tutorial in the training suggests using the cost cap strategy for each pipeline, but on the media buying call this week, it was mentioned that this strategy isn't always as effective now.
Media
How do you?
buyers hate cost cap because it makes their world hard. Okay. But every media buyer wants to run on lowest cost because it's easier, it's simpler. And usually media buyers don't control creative. So for them, it's the only variable oftentimes that they can control. We have a training, Sam, I'm pretty sure in there that's like that, or maybe it was an internal one that we haven't released yet that could be cool. That's like, what do you do as a media buyer if your cost caps aren't spending? My goal, my dream is every campaign I'm running is a CBO cost cap and it's delivering at the budget I intend. That's the best possible ad account that you can have because it gives you downside protection. I get it. If you don't have enough data, you have small budgets, you might not be able to make cost caps work, and then you run on lowest cost. But it's a less valuable option to me. It is riskier. There is more option that Facebook lights my money on fire. Now, so there's a trade-off. Do I have to do that? Is it my only option? Then I do it. If not, I want it to run on cost cap as best as I can.
To piggyback on that for next question, how long or what do you look for as far as opening up those caps a little bit?
Yeah, so I would say multiple days of not delivering, right? Like, so the beautiful thing about a cost cap campaign is that rather than spending bad money, it spends no money. And let me tell you something, like this is like my favorite metaphor these days. There's a man standing on the corner. You walk outside and he says, hey, give me $20 and I'll give you back 10. Would you rather do that trade a bunch of times or would you rather never do that trade? And that's what happens with ad accounts is that the more you go out and spend bad money, the worse the outcome is for you. It is way better to spend no money than to spend money at a loss. Okay. And this is really important. So if there are multiple days of no delivery, then you've got to either loosen the cost cap or add creative. So with Intersect look like only difference between these campaigns is low AOV sub, $60, cost cap 25, mid AOV. Like I'll tell you right now, those are really aggressive cost caps. Just going to tell you. Remember, under reporting by 15%. If your cost cap requires a 2.5 to 1 ROAS, you're basically saying like, hey, we have to get like an 80th percentile outcome for this to work. Remember, a cost cap is just the floor. It's not the ceiling, right? Those are very aggressive cost caps, especially on a sub. That's my initial response to that. Is you might need to loosen those unless you've historically produced those kinds of outcomes, but that is a very aggressive floor.
Sweet. All right. What's the approach when your lack of performance is not related to the inner workings of an ad account, but rather like the post-click experience? Like where do you start? Like
change the post-click experience? Is that not an option? Are you saying like you're a media buyer and you can't control it? Like I don't like playing rigged games. Okay. So if I'm a media buyer and I know for some reason that the website doesn't work, like let's say I'm like, oh, the website has a horrific load time or the price of the product is like way off. Like I'm not interested in playing ad games where the back end of it is like a loser, right? So the reality is in every media account, there's a partnership to be had, which is that like to make this thing work, it's not just about one side or the other. So now what I'll tell you, if you're an agency owner and what you did was you went out and ran a bunch of ads and then turned around and said it was the website that was a problem and you didn't get that investment and update from the front, they're not going to believe you. It's going to sound like finger pointing, right? So that's why it's so important that from the beginning you set the table for what it looks like and means to run a winning ad account and what my job is and what your job is. And then we show data to measure the present performance of these things and flag any risks ahead of time. Because I guarantee you, if you come back and you're like, I just spent $5,000 and my ads are awesome, it's your website that sucks, you're going to get fired. Like nobody wants to hear that if it's after the fact. But if from the beginning you're setting that expectation, you have to go from there. But you can't say like, how do I make ads that work on a broken website? Like that, there is no solution for that.
Rock on. All right. We just have a couple more minutes, so we're going to take a couple more questions. So last call for anybody who wants to join admission, take advantage of the on the live Q&A bonuses. One call with Taylor as part of your for the annual or the 3-month access to Statla is completely free. You can't even get access to it in the general public. So make sure you take advantage of that. Sam just dropped the link. Last call, last warning, bells, whistles, alarms going off. This is the last chance to take advantage of that. And I'm going to take a couple questions and try to pick some shorter ones here. Sorry, I lost my place here.
So I'll grab one. Maurice, like how does a small brand do the landing page thing? What I love about the Loop landing page thing is it's the exact same template with small variations in adjustments and copy. So what I would say is the simplest way to do this is alter the copy on your PDP page, create unlisted PDPs, and use them for ad funnels specifically. So imagine rather than having to design a page, you take your existing PDP, your product display page, and you duplicate it and you leave it unlisted, meaning it doesn't show up in the nav on your website. It's just you create one and you name it, right? And all you do is you alter the body copy of the text and even the product name to match the audience and ad proposition that you're going after. And so that's like the lowest, simplest way to do it. That requires no design work, no money spent. You can literally alter the copy in the builder inside of Shopify, and you just run that and you use that URL specifically for the ad campaign. That's the simplest way. The next easiest way is to create one template and alter the blocks of it. So if you go look at that loop example, all they do is change the header image, change this graph, but the structure of the page is exactly the same. And so that makes it really easy to churn out a bunch of different models of it.
All right. Let's see. What should a new brand be focusing on during the first 60 days of existence?
Getting organic purchases and traffic. Like, I think that you should actually manually grind out your first 100 to 250 purchases. I'm talking about DMing users, getting friends, sending out to your personal email list, getting in Facebook groups, getting on Twitter, joining Discord, wherever your community exists, go become endemic to that community, meet people, introduce them to your brand, manually grind out your first 100 to 250 purchases. Like, unless you have a bunch of money and you're willing to just use Facebook to do it, building the foundation, interacting with the users, and working through those first purchases, getting to events on the weekend and selling product, like that actual grind of why do people like this, who likes it, what's the interaction, manually interacting with as many people as possible is how I would sell my first 100 to 250 products before I ever spent $1, unless I had just a grip of cash that I was going to use for that growth strategy.
Okay, cool. We'll take one more here. If we're doing hyper-specific landing pages and ad creative, does anything change on the actual Facebook ad account side of things, or do you still go broad?
Nope, not worried about going broad, because again, my creative, this term broad is so deceptive to people. It really messes with our minds, right? Because what we think it means is like everybody, right? But that's not what it means. It's not what it means at all. It means that Facebook is going to use the data of the ad interactions to define the audience that you go after. So the ad creative will drive you into different audiences relative to who interacts with the ad, okay? So if you have we would probably set it up as a funnel. Here's my offer concept, angle concept. This is the campaign for that audience. Here's another one, campaign concept for that audience, and go from there. And again, the only caveat would be like, if I have a bunch of pixel data and this audience is like massively different than whatever, I might aim it by giving it a motorcycle interest to try and like help aim it with audience expansion on. That might be the only thing that I would add to that. But otherwise, fire away. All right, everyone, that's it. This is the moment. This is your last second click on a link, and hopefully see you all in Q4. If you're not and you're out of here and it's been 2 weeks, hey, no harm, no foul. This is what it's for. I hope you got value. I hope at some point you're in a position to come back and join us, and we'll welcome you with open arms when you do. See us on Twitter and keep following along, and we appreciate all of you. For the rest of you that are going to be with us in Q4, let's go make it happen.
Yeah, and I want to say we appreciate you, Taylor, for sticking around almost a half hour beyond the time. So super appreciate you coming on, answering questions, staying on later. And like he said, last 2 seconds to go and claim live bonuses if you want to do that. Otherwise, we have 75 spots. Obviously, a bunch of people have joined now, so we got to tally that up, and I'll keep you updated. But outside of that, we really appreciate you joining us, like Taylor said, and have a fantastic day, and we'll talk real soon.
Cool. Awesome.